From the Corner Office is brought to you by Synovus Bank, championing business growth through trusted, relationship-driven banking throughout the Gulf Coast region. Matthew Rolnick doesn't only talk about real, authentic leadership, he embodies it. A senior vice president for Tampa-based Real American Beer, Matthew is something of a serial connector in both the online and real world. And, pardon the cliche, he looks to connect people in a real win-win way where both sides get something. The Business Observer writes regularly about leaders like Matthew in print and online. To read more, subscribe. Go to businessobserverfl.com. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer's From the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Matthew Rolnick, Senior Vice President of Partnership and Events at Real American Beer. Matthew, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mark. Excited to be talking to you today.
Yeah, so Real American Beer's got a big Florida presence, say, and a Florida connection, especially to Tampa and Hulk Hogan. We're gonna get into that and what your role is with Real American Beer. And you've had a pretty interesting career in marketing and done some digital stuff. I want to talk about that too. And Cameo. I want to talk about Cameo.
Sure.
That's pretty cool. But first, let's get our audience to know you a little bit better, Matthew. We're going to do some first ever questions. What was your first ever job? First job you got paid for?
First job I got paid for, I actually remember doing telemarketing for Stanley Steamer, a carpet cleaning company. So that's kind of first got me into business and sales. So I did that.
Stanley Steamer, they had a jingle, right? Stanley Steamer, right? Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was telemarketing businesses, seeing if they wanted their carpets cleaned. So
did you have is it like dialing for dollars? You had a script?
It was dialing for dollars.
Well, so you learned a lot about rejection, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 95+% were rejected. But you know, that 1 to 5% that said yes, it made all the difference. So
yeah. What was the first concert you ever went to?
First concert, it was a high school. I remember it was an 80s glam band. It was Europe, the group that does Final Countdown. I still hear that song a lot.
Still going. And Matthew, what was your first car?
First car, the first car was my parents. I was driving an old Oldsmobile. I think I looked like Chevy Chase in Vacation or something like that.
Yes, mine was an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme.
That's what it was.
Doors were like a tank. It was literally, it really was like a tank. Awesome. All right, Matthew, Real American Beer. I mean, it's pretty clear what you guys do. It's in the name, but tell us, what is Real American Beer and what's the connection to Tampa and Florida and Hulk Hogan?
Well, Real American Beer, we're a light beer, 99 calories. We're a crushable beer, 200% American. And when you say with Hulk, that was our first market. Florida was our first market we were in. And so we're now in 30 plus states, but Florida was that first market. And we just did a tour all around the country going state to state. But that's a special state for me just because that was the first events that I was doing. That's where we first presented the beer. And it's been very much embraced. We're getting a lot of energy. We like to believe we're bringing the energy to light beer, and it's just been growing.
Yeah. How did you get, you've been in some tech companies. I want to hear a little bit about your career, but how did you specifically get involved in Real American Beer? What led to this opportunity?
Wow. Well, the company I was with before was called Yaymaker, and I was doing events, and I was working with a lot of speakers. I was doing some celebrities, and I had the opportunity. Hulk's business partner, Chad Bronstein, who I worked with in the past, told me he was helping Hulk with a new beer. I got him on a Zoom because I was trying to get Hulk to speak for another client. And while I'm talking how this all can work, I hear, "Yeah, brother, this is sounding good." And literally, Chad on the call literally shared, "Hey, we're going to bring Rolnick in to oversee our partnerships and events." And then they called me, and basically I said, "Wow, that sounds amazing. Let's do it." And within a few weeks, I was off and running.
Yeah, and you guys are still here, and the Business Observer recently wrote about Terry Francis and some of the work from the CEO level. How's we are here in late April recording this. How's Real American Beer doing right now in the market?
It's been really exciting. As I said, we've got our new branding that's just hit. We also started a new non-alcoholic our zero product. So that's been exciting having a new product. And with the new branding, I think it really pops and I think people are really excited. And as I said, we just tweaked the formula just a little bit. So I think it even tastes better now. As I said, we're at 99 calories. But the interest and the energy, especially now with Memorial Day coming, 4th of July, 250th year of America, I think we're just getting a lot of interest. And we're doing a lot with, we're the official beer of Real American Freestyle, unscripted wrestling that's just exploding. I mean, it is literally the fastest growing new sports organization in the world right now, and, we're doing a lot with country music. We're sponsoring Rock the Country, so it's been exciting. So I think we've got a lot of energy behind us, a lot of momentum. Distributors are excited, retailers are excited, so, we've been getting really good feedback.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Matthew. So tell us about your career. Take us back to how you got into sort of marketing and technology and some of the steps you took to grow your
Sh
career.
Sure, so I started more business development, sales, I worked with the Tribune newspaper. I started in Orlando. I was in working in Orlando. I I had an amazing assignment. I was working with, sports and entertainment. Disney was my biggest client, but that's kinda how where I started. So I always was gravitated towards advertising and marketing, entertainment sales. Um, Eventually, I went to the digital side when online started getting big. Um, the Yelp before Yelp, I was with a company called CitySearch and was working with a lot of small, mid-sized businesses, eventually more national accounts, eventually led a team and a region and grew with that. And then Groupon actually started in Chicago. I met founder Andrew Mason when he was 27, 28 years old. And I just loved what he was doing. And I thought it was a very unique, interesting model that I was using. And he had 7 employees at the time. I joined handful of months later, and they had 200 employees, watched it grow to 12, 13,000 employees. It was it was a rocket ship watching it grow. Um, so I was with Groupon at a couple runs for about 8 years, and then, as I said, I helped a friend of mine, Dan, who has started the original paint night, also Yaymaker, doing, in-person events. Once COVID hit, I was trying to help him figure out how to do events more virtually, and that kind of just tied in where all of a sudden I started doing celebrity events and celebrity interviews, working with motivational speakers, but it just it's interesting how keeping strong relationships and being passionate about your industry, how opportunities can organically grow.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll go back to Groupon because I think is, people forget Groupon was the stud, right? It was the star. It had this rapid growth and that sort of is not really prime in the marketplace now, but at the time Groupon was a pioneer in that kind of online coupon
Yep.
marketing space. Tell us about what you learned, lessons learned from working at Groupon.
Yeah, it was the internet darling at the time. I think it was a very with thousands of different advertising options, it was a unique model because they could prove customers and, and it was just exciting. So it was just very different, and again, businesses that knew how to utilize it well could figure out good long-term strategies. But I learned that startups, it's fast, it's crazy. You want to move fast. I remember Groupon having competition like Living Social, so it probably grew faster than it should. But we wanted to capture that market share, and nobody really had the answers. We were double down on anything that was working, trying to just keep tweaking the models, keep trying to find new niches with it. Like anything, I learned that communication's very important, having trust, making sure everybody's all bought in the mission. It was exciting just because I think people really felt part of something that we are growing this, as I said, this internet darling, as you said, this stud, and just we were doing really things, and the businesses were so excited, and the demand was so high at the time. Thousands of businesses were reaching out to Groupon saying they wanted to be featured, and at the time it was just one feature a day. So Groupon had a lot of leverage in who to work with and when to work with. But basically, the big thing I learned is you got to always reassess. You got to always pivot. You got to always figure out what works because the business market and climate is always changing.
Yes. Yeah, and especially, we haven't, we're almost 9 minutes into this recording and we haven't talked about AI yet, right? So, I mean, that's another thing that is obviously leading to rapid change. When you look at your entire career, Matthew, what are some characteristics you think make good leaders? What's the characteristics that stand out to make good
Well,
leaders?
I'd say a couple things. I mean, I hear this word used a lot. I use it a lot, but one is authenticity. I mean, there's so many different versions of leaders. Leaders that are really honest with their personalities and they share the reasons why and things like that. I think that makes a leader more effective because people can relate to them. And then I'll say awareness is a really important characteristic in a leader. A leader that knows their strengths, their weaknesses, asks others where they can be obviously strong in the way they lead, but also vulnerable enough to be like, hey, where are areas we can improve? Leaders that ask opinions from people from all departments. I'm a big believer in people in the front lines. They're talking to clients, they're talking to customers, and leaders that are asking and wanting that information and being aware of their own strengths and weaknesses, I think are really important characteristics.
Are there examples? I'm sure there are people you work with, maybe you mentioned Dan at Groupon, but leaders that you saw sort of execute on being authentic and available and these kinds of things you're talking about.
Boy, I've worked with many good leaders in my career. I don't want to rattle off and give you the whole kitchen sink, but I'll share. Currently, as I said, I think about Chad Bronstein, who's the co-founder of Real American Beer and Real American Freestyle, and he's just kind of what I've learned or witnessed from him is just thinking big. He's always got big vision, and he's I'll say, very authentic with that. And he's kind of has this let's focus on the positives. Let's focus on what we can do. And that's really kind of influenced me to keep thinking bigger. Terry Francis, our CEO, who you've interviewed with, she is, I'll say, very passionate when it comes to people, ideas, data, and I've seen her work on very strategic, high level things, as well as even in events that I've worked with her. We were recently at a Buffalo Bills Mafia tailgate party, 5,000 people, and she was willing to do whatever it takes to just engage the crowd, getting involved. But I admire leaders that are willing to walk their talk. So currently, I work, but to answer your question, I've had leaders from the past. I was a resident assistant at a college dorm in Wisconsin, and there was a gentleman, Bill Levy, who also thought big, really encouraged me to be myself, taught me the importance of having a sense of humor, which I think is really important. And also, I'll share Sylvia Martinchevic at Groupon. Here's a leader who just commanded the room and just always, again, it encouraged me to kind of be to be myself and keep pushing and keep challenging. So I think leaders that, again, that know your strengths, encourage them, push you in a positive way. Those are real important things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And those, as you said, bold vision, right? You want somebody, especially in you've been in a lot of competitive spaces, right? Technology, beer's pretty competitive, right? There's a lot of options. You want somebody who's out there sort of positioning you guys to be big. I like that. What's a lesson, Matthew, that you've learned in your career that, you utilize now, maybe you wish you knew when you were, 20 years younger, 15 years ago, 10 years ago? What's a lesson you use now?
Boy, well, when I first started out of college, I believed kind of everybody's there. They're going to deliver. They're going to finish all their promises. So I was very idealistic, maybe a little naive. I had a marketing business. I remember paying all my bills, and I was, 21 at the time, but not all the clients were paying me back. And they'd stall and they'd say, hey, checks in the mail or things like that, or come back. And I learned, relatively quickly that you got to double check with people, get things in writing. Just because you shake someone's hand or you believe they're a good person, that doesn't mean they're always going to deliver, and that everyone, big or small, can have financial challenges or things like that. So I learned to be just a little more cautious. That was one lesson that I definitely learned. I'll say another too is, I still in my mind I can win everybody over. I mean, I'm a very passionate person. I like people. I want to help. I want to play nice in the sandbox with everybody. That's not reality. There's different personalities, different conflicts. You're not going to win everybody over. You have to be true to yourself and you have to lead the way you think makes sense and be honest about it. And just know that most of the time you'll win, but not always.
Yeah, that second part's really interesting. The lesson I've learned a lot is that sometimes I feel like my intentions were so good, but the other person doesn't believe that. So you're
Yo,
not
yeah.
right. But I'm like, "But wait, my intentions were good." And that's true sometimes in personal relationships too, right? Like, but you're not going to win everybody over.
No, no. I'm a very optimistic person. I believe I'm very genuine, but I've had people be like, they question, "Am I really that optimistic? Am I really that genuine? Am I being a little fake?" Which I don't believe I am at all, but, anyway, but, you have to be you. I do believe in the importance of calibrating and adjusting to culture and personalities, but still you gotta be your essence of who you are.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a segue, but I mean, that's how you and I connected. Was I wrote about Real American Beer, which I thought was really interesting and kind of, sort of 2.0 right after
Yeah.
Hulk. And then tell us about how you reached out to me on LinkedIn.
Well, if I remember correctly, and you may have to correct me on this, I believe I saw the article you did with Terry, and I believe I was impressed, I liked it, and, I believe after we connected, I sent you a LinkedIn voice message,
Yes,
which
LinkedIn voice message I'd never seen before. What is that?
what is it? I mean, it's on their app, it's a free app, you just in once you connect with someone, you can just press the little microphone button and leave up to a 60-second message, and it's something that I like to do. After I connect with somebody, I like letting them know, "Hey," especially in today's day with AI and everything like that, it's a little more of a human touch to hear your voice, to let them know of something that you noticed or saw, and I also like to let my network know that I like being a connector to check my network. I never promise I can make any intros, but if somebody looks like an interesting fit, I'm happy to try to help. So I try to strengthen my network that way. But like you said, most people come back and either send a message back or and say, "I didn't know that this was even on LinkedIn." I had once someone at LinkedIn tell me they didn't know they had this feature.
That's amazing. The secret is the enemy is inside the house. Well, not the enemy, but
There you
it's inside the house. That's so cool. And you're right. The not anti AI, but the ability to sort of get to, hey, this is a real person. That is so important because we're so inundated with how you can use AI to be better, and that's great. And I'm not a
Yeah,
luddite about it, but
yeah.
it's refreshing to also have human to human contact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, especially in today's day and age. I mean,
Yeah.
the having that extra human connection is one way I think to stand out.
Yeah. Okay, so this might sound like a softball question because
Right.
you're a marketing guy, but I'm really curious on your insight. How important is storytelling to good leadership?
Wow. Well, okay. I like softball questions. That makes it easier. Storytelling's powerful. You know what? How's this? I mean, I consider myself, even though I consider myself a leader, a thought leader. I'm always trying to branding myself different ways, but at heart, I'm a salesperson. I love selling. I love being an ambassador for something. And you know what? People don't want to be sold to, but everybody wants to hear a story. So so some of the best leaders, the most effective people out there, if they know how to share a story, tell a story, get people to get engaged. I mean, attention's a currency. If you can share an engaging story and get people interested, listening or sharing it, that's powerful. So yeah, so I think some of the most effective leaders are the best storytellers.
Yeah, excellent. And we didn't. I want to take a step back. Cameo.
Yeah.
What kind of work do you do with Cameo? I want to hear about that because I think I'm just fascinated by that. What do you do for Cameo?
Well, okay, so Cameo, Stephen Galanis, who started Cameo in Chicago, actually, when he first started the concept, I found it fascinating. There was a woman who I was managing at Groupon who actually loved Britney Spears and her old husband, I think Kevin Federliner, but basically she did a great presentation, and for like 25 bucks, I had Kevin Federline like shout her out. And at first she watched it and she thought it was fake. She thought I found some fake person, but once she
Yes.
realized it was him, she freaked out. And I was like, "Wow, that is fascinating, the power of it can be." So anyway, so I started utilizing Cameo as personal gifts, getting people's attention. But anyway, I wrote a book, Find Your Yay, and I had Steven read the book beforehand, give me a testimonial, and then he knew my, presence with LinkedIn, and, anyway, Cameo then invited me to be on Cameo, so people can pay me to give, LinkedIn or professional advice or a little motivation. I'm not a big Cameo revenue maker to them, but I've done a few, and it was fun, and again, I look at it as a way to connect with people, brand yourself, and I love giving people professional advice. I think a little outside the box, and I really take the time to look into their LinkedIn, or if they send me a resume to figure out, all right, these are different ways that you should consider how to grow professionally. But anyway, I would say that's more of a fun thing for me personally.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Cameo is as you were pointing out, right? You You can get, high end, high level celebrities to do it, or people you probably never heard of. And a quick shout out to my friend Elise Raymer, public relations pro in Sarasota, once got a comedian to come on to do for her group, the Florida Public Relations Association. And this comedian did this hilarious bid who nobody ever heard of, but it was really funny. So you can do
Nice.
these really cool things with it.
Yeah, well, and again, what's neat about Cameo is whatever niche you're in. If you love chess, you love books, you love certain reality shows, you can find usually people there that can do shout outs, and it's just, they're fun ways to engage.
Yeah. All right. And you mentioned advice. What advice would you give to a young person coming up in a marketing, branding, storytelling career? What advice would you give to somebody?
Well, you hear not what you know, it's who you know. And again, I believe it's both. I mean, if you have an expertise and you're great at something, I mean, that's important. But I still believe in growing and nurturing relationships, and I feel like most people at all ages, all levels, don't do it well enough. I work with CEOs on this. I work with young professionals on this. I've got a daughter who's 18 who now has over 500 LinkedIn connections and found a job with a Bruetta tea, a tea company, because of the LinkedIn. So I believe in going to networking events. I believe in connecting with people. I believe in trying to help people, even if you don't, even if they can't directly help you. So growing and nurturing relationships. I'm a advocate for LinkedIn. I use all social media now, but anyway, but that would be a start. Is a young professional grow that LinkedIn presence. That, at least that's for me personally. Again, there's a lot of different routes, but that would be one way I'd go. And don't be shy to post content, because a lot of people are shy about it. I mean, you looked at LinkedIn, 95% of people are, and I'm ballparking these statistics, are observing content, but they're not proactively doing it, and they always are worried about what should I say, what's different, what's unique. You know what? It doesn't have to be rocket science. I mean, you can share, "Hey, I did this experience with this project, and this is what I learned," and some people are gonna connect with it. So to answer your question, it's connect with more people, go to more networking events, post a little more.
Yeah, that's good advice, especially, posting, be out there, put yourself out there, get
Yeah.
uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
All right, going back to Real American Beer, last question, Matthew, as we're recording here in late April, what are we looking forward to? What's new and exciting coming up? You mentioned a couple things, but
Yeah.
this summer with Real American Beer, what can people look for?
Boy, there's a lot. As I mentioned before, the new branding, you gotta try the beer, it tastes great. The new, non-alcoholic, is exciting for us. I encourage everybody to check out Real American Freestyle. We're the official beer with that. That sport is just blowing up. I mean, within 7, 8 months, I think we have 260,000 plus Instagram followers. We're getting billions of impressions. For people that haven't watched freestyle wrestling, it's exciting, and as I said, we're being the official beer of that. With the holidays coming up, Memorial Day, Father's Day, July 4th, we are definitely gonna be, a very prominent beer during those
Yeah.
holidays and things like that. So, I think those are some of the things. I think you're gonna see a lot of people outdoors love our beer, whether they like fishing, hunting, golf. You're seeing them really connect with our beer. So, there's some exciting things definitely happening. So, I think you're gonna be seeing us and hearing us more and more.
Excellent. Well, Matthew Rolnick, Senior Vice President for Partnerships and Events at Real American Beer, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
From the Corner Office podcast.
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to staying in touch.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordy. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.